Once again, we are in Logical Reasoning Drill Set 1, lawhub.lsac.org, to take a look at another type of question that you will see on the exam. And if we look straight ahead at number 9, we will go straight to that question task as always. And we've got a task asking which one of the following principles, if valid, most helps to justify the reasoning in the commuter's argument. Now, a principal task often gets categorized uniquely, but in this case, justify really just means a fancy way of strengthening. So we treat what's on the left-hand side as we do every other argumentation style task. We're going to read it. We're going to have our highlighting tool at the ready so that we can identify the conclusion and then try to find something that broadly would strengthen the computer's argument as a principle. So reading from the left-hand side, we've got to induce commuters to take public buses and thereby relieve traffic congestion. Munville is considering raising the fees for downtown parking garages. Although raising parking fees would relieve traffic congestion, the city should not raise these fees. After all, commuting on the buses would be a major inconvenience for most commuters since it is much slower and less reliable than driving. So anytime you have a recommendation, it's generally going to be your conclusion. So we've got this conclusion of the city should not raise these fees. But I don't know what these fees are without a little bit more highlighting. So we're going to just highlight what the fees are. And we can kind of read the highlights in full as its own combined conclusion. Munville is considering raising the fees for downtown parking garages. The city should not raise these fees. And again, just like any strengthened task, we want to mentally kind of predict what would support this commuter's statement that we shouldn't raise the fees, even though you would relieve traffic congestion. And we've got the reasoning that commuting on the buses would be a major inconvenience because those buses are slower and less reliable. So we kind of have this mental idea again in the real life scenario of, well, they're saying that it's more important to make sure we don't inconvenience these commuters through slow and less reliable bus commutes. So we've got it in mind. We're basically saying that the way to strengthen is showing that the inconvenience is not worth the decrease in traffic congestion. So moving over to the answer choices, keeping our highlighting tool selected so we can identify reasons to eliminate. We've got choice A city should not implement any policy without considering all probable consequences of the policy. Well, we certainly did not cover all probable consequences, and we're not talking about any policy writ large. So we can eliminate choice A hopefully pretty easily. Then choice B, we've got given a choice between two measures that each achieve a desired goal. At this point, I might stop and just go, what two measures? We're just deciding whether or not we're going to raise these fees for downtown parking garages. So again, if you're looking for a way to expedite your evaluation of individual logical reasoning questions, this is how you do it. You go, that's wrong. It doesn't even matter what comes after the comma. We can highlight the two measures and eliminate choice B immediately. Then choice C, we've got commuters should be allowed to use the method of commuting that is fastest and most reliable for them. Well, I mean, if I'm thinking about my prediction, I go fastest, reliable. These seem reasonable. I'm not necessarily loving it, but I go, okay, that's at least in the ballpark of what might be expected. Now, choice D says a measure designed to relieve traffic congestion should be implemented only if doing so would not create inconvenience for commuters. Well, again, we were talking about inconvenience, so D I'm probably going to leave open, no highlights yet as well. And then lastly, we've got choice E, a city should not charge excessive fees. It doesn't say anything about excessive fees. That's a qualifier that is not defined at all in the commuter's argument. Even though the commuter is against raising the fees, at no point does the commuter define the fees as excessive. So we can eliminate choice E. Now, when you're down to two options, this is when the highlighting tool is actually most important. You've got to look for actions and descriptions for reasons to eliminate as opposed to just familiar terms that you like. Because if you are looking at familiar terms, you might go, ooh, reliable. I liked reliable. And you might be tricked into selecting the wrong answer because we don't talk about fastest and most reliable. We talked about slower and less reliable, but we don't know anything about whether car traffic or buses are fastest and most reliable based solely on the paragraph. So we can eliminate choice C, and choice D is the correct answer because it's basically saying that if you are going to relieve the traffic congestion, you can only do that if you don't create the inconvenience, because the commuter is saying the inconvenience is not worth the effort of the commuters who now have to take those buses. So correct answer is D. And again, you can see how highlighting is such a hugely important aspect of expediting your evaluation for even some of the more, we'll say, rare types of questions you'll find involving an argument on the logical reasoning section.